welcome to our viewers in Nigeria and across the world. Lunchtime Politics begins right now. Well, it's decision day for Ecowas, as it is set to make a decision any moment from now on its next move at an emergency summit in Abuja, days after the expiration of the ultimatum given to the military junta in Niger to return power to the ousted government. And as security operatives step up onslaught against members of the proscribed IPOB and ESN group, South-East governors meet on security situation in the region. And the NNPP comes under the spotlight as leaders within the party accuse the presidential candidate, Senator Robbie Kwakuso, of victimizing them, as the national leadership says that the aggrieved members remain dissolved. We'll begin with breaking news at this hour. It's decision day for leaders from West African bloc ECOWAS, who are holding an emergency summit on the coup in Niger Republic after the country's military chiefs defied an ultimatum to restore the elected president. Now, according to a statement from the 15-nation organization, important decisions are expected from the gathering in Abuja today. The bloc, which is hoping to stem a cascade of coups among its members since 2020, gave the troops who seized power on July the 26th until last Sunday to reinstate President Bazoum or face the potential use of force. But the coup leaders remain defiant, and the deadline passed without action. Well, the meeting of the ECOWAS heads is expected to begin any moment from now. It had been scheduled to begin earlier on, but we understand that it might be beginning any moment from now. But let's go over to our State House correspondent, Larry Lasisi, who is live at the State House venue of that summit. Well, Larry, all eyes, as expected, on that venue, but more importantly, on the leaders of ECOWAS who will be meeting any moment from now to make a decision on the next move. But we understand that that meeting is yet to begin. Can you give us just the atmosphere there and perhaps what to expect?
Okay, Kayode, thanks. Well, we're here at the Villa Conference Hall where the session is built to take place, and I can tell you here is filled, and I can inform you reliably that we have about 10 presidents, I'm told, have arrived already, but they're not in the hall at this time. As I'm sure you're aware, the last meeting that held here 2 weeks ago, the protocol they followed was that after they arrived, they had the meeting in closed door where they kind of ironed out everything, discussed the issues, then came into the hall where they now read the communique. So right now we're in the hall. We have dignitaries here, top government officials from across ECOWAS. We have members of the diplomatic corps who are also here to witness the proceeding. I can tell you that we have here someone that was not here the last time this meeting held, and that's the Chief of Defense Staff of Nigeria. He's in this meeting, and I'm sure you will find that relevant because of the military option that had been put on the table as one of the options that could be taken if the situation in Niger is not resolved. But as I can tell you right here, we're set, we're waiting, and all we're waiting for now is for the heads of governments and the president to come out and let the meeting commence.
Larry, just one more thing. What is the atmosphere like, really? Do you get a sense that there's some tension in the air? I know there's also diplomacy, so you might not be able to see through those smiles, but what is the atmosphere like, and do we have a time on when this will begin?
Well, the atmosphere here from our end is expectant. We obviously know that today something has to give. The deadline elapsed on Sunday, and there are people that are saying what's ECOWAS going to do after coming out with such a strong stance of what will be done if their ultimatum is not taken. Now, I can tell you for my own part, I'm happy you mentioned the diplomatic part of it, but a lot of people are just sitting here waiting. The decision will be made inside. The anticipation is what will be said, what will be resolved, and what the next step will be. For some of us who are here, we find it significant, the presence of the Chief of Defense Staff, and we're waiting to see what role he plays and how he will impart. Is he going to brief the body, the bloc? Is he going to also maybe be giving instructions to take back to the bloc? You know, they met, the Chief of Defense Staffs of ECOWAS states met sometime last week also to, you know, consider their options, I'm sure. So a lot to wonder, a lot to consider, and but we just have to wait and see what the resolution is.
Thank you very much, Larry. Of course, we'll be back with you as soon as anything breaks. Thank you for that update. Our correspondent, Larry Lasisi, live there at the State House Conference Hall venue of that emergency summit of ECOWAS leaders. He's given us the update. 10 presidents are around, and of course, Nigeria's Chief of Defense Staff is also there. So stay with Channels Television for live updates, and in fact, live sights and sounds from that emergency ECOWAS summit. But just before that summit, before today's ECOWAS meeting, the 14th Emir of Kano, Alhaji Mohammed Sanusi, had met with the coup leaders in Niger Republic, perhaps part of the diplomatic option, you would say. And he met the military leaders after the junta declared a meeting with the representatives of African Union, ECOWAS, and, or rather they declined a meeting with leaders of ECOWAS, the AU, that's African Union, and a top U.S. diplomats. Well, the former central bank governor met the coup leaders in company of the Sultan of Damagern, which is the third largest city in Niger Republic. Just right after that meeting, he met with President Bola Tinubu to brief him on the outcome of that meeting. Take a listen.
I came to brief him on the details of my discussion with the leaders of Niger. Interventions are ongoing, and we'll continue to do our best to bring the two parties together to improve understanding. This is a time for public diplomacy. It's not a matter that we leave to governments. All Nigerians, all Nigerians need to be involved to find a solution that works for Africa, a solution that works for Niger, that works for Nigeria, and a solution that works for humanity. I was not sent by the government. The government officials were aware I was going, but it was my personal initiative, using my personal contacts to get there, and I will continue to do my best. It is my duty as a leader to do that.
Well, there's so much happening on that front, because after that meeting, the junta in Niger, particularly the leader, General Abdurrahman Chiani, appointed a cabinet in defiance of calls by regional leaders to restore ousted President Mohamed Bazoum. Well, the new government is made up of 21 ministers, including 2 ministers of state and a delegate minister. Well, the new transitional government, made up of military and civilian personalities, is led by interim Prime Minister Lamin Zain Ali Mahamane, who will also double as the Minister of Economy and Finance. The former Chief of Staff, Lieutenant General Salifu Modi, while considered to be General Chiani's deputy, has been named the Minister of National Defense. And the junta has already named new military chiefs and sacked most of senior government officials who served in Mr. Bazoum's administration. So let's get some more perspective to this, particularly the regional, the continental, and the international perspective. We're joined by Eniola Ekikwotu, who is the chief correspondent of Africa Report. He joins us virtually from the nation's capital, Abuja. Good to have you on the program, Eniola. And I know that all eyes will be naturally on that meeting.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and what is happening in Niger. But we've seen the junta announcing a government via a decree anyway, but seeing that it looks like the military junta in Niger has shifted to some extent, what are the options you see available to the ECOWAS leaders today?
It's unlikely that they're going to push for military intervention in Niger. Of course, you know that Nigeria is the leader of ECOWAS. This is even apart from the fact that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the chairman, the current chairman of the regional bloc. So any decision Nigeria takes now, any position Nigeria takes should be what ECOWAS will go with. And you look at the local pressure that he's facing currently. Even though he just sent a letter to Parliament, that's to the Senate, asking them to just for support. You saw the response they gave, that diplomacy should continue. They're against a military intervention. You've seen the NSCIA as well. That's the Supreme Council on Islamic Affairs, saying that, they shouldn't take any decision. They shouldn't, go into Niger. There shouldn't be any military intervention. You've seen the Catholic bishops saying the same thing. So the message from everyone is let there be peace, let diplomacy continue. And so more or less his hands are tied. I don't see Nigeria pushing for that, and I don't see ECOWAS going for that as well. When I say that, I'm referring to military intervention in Niger. So I think about 3 presidents have arrived so far, because I'm also monitoring what's going on there. As the last time I checked, Sierra Leone has arrived, Gambia, as well as Guinea-Bissau. So I think things should kick off soon, but I do not think that a military intervention is what they're going to be pushing for today.
Well, it's also instructive that Nigeria's Chief of Defense Staff is present at that meeting. Our correspondent Larry Lasisi reported that earlier on. But how instructive do you think the fact that the junta has declined meeting with AU, with ECOWAS, and even other diplomatic representatives from across the world? What does that mean really for Africa? Should it be an African thing, strictly allow Niger decide what it wants to do, or allow the African continent rally around and say, well, this is what we think you should do? How do you think this should be progressed?
I think it's going to be pretty much what has been happening in the past. We saw what happened in Mali, Burkina Faso, and in Guinea. So you're going to see pressure from Africa anyway. Let's even bring it down to ECOWAS. They're going to see more pressure from them, sanctions, etc. And one of the biggest sanctions is the electricity, cutting off electricity supply, because Niger depends on Nigeria for about 70% of its electricity supply. There's a letter that was issued yesterday by former heads of state in Niger and former heads of their parliament, where they were complaining about the sanctions. These are very, very stiff sanctions. Imagine 70% of Nigerians, for instance, not having access to electricity at all. So these sanctions are going to begin to bite. And so these are the things that they're going to focus on now. That is one. And then secondly, of course, we live in a globalized world now.
Right.
You can't there's no country that is going to be an island unto itself. And so what is happening in Nigeria too doesn't want that spread. Because, look at Nigeria is surrounded by countries that have unstable democracies, or, do not have democracy at all. So they're not going to leave things to be. They're not going to just relax the sanctions. They're going to continue with the sanctions. Right. But as I said earlier on, there's not going to be any military intervention.
Eniola Akikotu, Chief Correspondent, Africa Report, thank you so much for that update. Of course, we'll probably have you back right after this meeting to get some more insights. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Kyle.
So while we keep our eyes on what's playing out at the ECOWAS summit, which, of course, we understand is still yet to begin, Channels Television is live there for you. Let's talk about politics on the national scale. And there seems to be a rumble in the camp of the opposition New Niger People's Party, the NNPP. Some aggrieved leaders in the party are raising dust over the dissolution of party executives in some state over what was termed anti-party activities. But in a statement, the affected executives, led by former chairman of Ogun State NNPP, Mr. Sunday Ogini, accusing the party's presidential candidate, Senator Robbie Ukwakoso, of using the National Working Committee to victimize members that were against his style of leadership. Now, while describing the dissolution as unconstitutional, they say Senator Ukwakoso is the one guilty of anti-party activities by fraternizing with other political parties. So So what exactly is going on within the NNPP? You remember that the NNPP was touted as the possible third or fourth force at some point. So let's get into the realm of that party. We're joined on the program from our Abuja studio by Mr. Ladipo Johnson, who is the chairman of NNPP's disciplinary committee, is also the national auditor of the party, joins us live on the program, as well as Comrade Sunday Ogini. He, of course, is part of the leaders in the party that authored that particular statement. He's here with us in our Lagos studio. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much.
Let me begin with Mr. Ladipo Johnson in our Abuja studio, because that statement has been released by Comrade Ogini and some other leaders within the party. So let's get the reaction of perhaps the national leadership. And they say, first, that their dissolution is against the provisions of the party's constitution. In fact, they reference Article 39, sub 6, where it states that expelling a member must go through the neck. So tell us, was this done?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to you. Unfortunately, it seems that I've been trapped because ordinarily, Mr. Ogini is a good friend of mine. I would not appear on the program to talk back and forth with him because he is, strictly speaking, no longer a member of the party. He was expelled by the party. He went to court. He did not follow the procedures in the party's constitution, and the court threw his case out. Now he has a right of appeal, but at the moment, he is not a member of the party. But that being said, based on your question, everything that was done in accordance with the constitution of the party. Where the NEC does not meet on a daily basis, NEC acts through the National Working Committee. It is clear in the Constitution. And there are certain things that need to be ratified by NEC, not everything. Apart from that, the National Working Committee, also in accordance with the Constitution, can suspend a member being investigated. But that aside, the people who were suspended have a right of appeal, even under the constitution of the NNPP, and none of them have taken advantage of that opportunity. None of them have done that, and the courts would probably tell them that go back and finish the internal procedures that you have in your party to for resolution before you come to court. So basically,
Pardon me, so does that mean that the NEC signed off on it, on that decision that was made eventually, before we bring in Comrade Ogini?
That means that there's a NEC meeting coming. They haven't filed an appeal to the NEC. They haven't done anything. Some of them have gathered themselves and talking and making noises and trying to bring the party into disrepute. You should follow the internal proceedings, the internal procedures given to you by the constitution of your organization. It is when that is over that you can now approach the courts. The courts have said this time and time again.
All right, so let's bring in Comrade Ogini to get his response to those issues you have raised. So he says that, well, the decision stands and you should follow the procedure. You're right, you have a right of appeal. What do you say to that?
Thank you very much. And let me commend him for where he has started, that we are friends. Barrister Ladipo Johnson is my brother, and the family of NNPP we know ourselves. And he cannot deny it that in Nigeria today, I'm one of the most vibrant actors, bringing the party to reputations and to the known. But let me correct Barrister Ladipo, because he is a lawyer. This is the constitution of the party. Though they have doctored this constitution illegally about 2-3 times. But because the constitution is still very alive and we all subscribe to this, I want to read this to him to know that my expulsion has no place in this constitution.
Well, those are strong allegations.
No, yes. No, it has, as I said it, but that one belongs to judicial explanation. But now, we are still with this constitution as amended. And I want to read to Mr. Ladipo, page 4 of our constitution. It says that the provision of this constitution shall be supreme to any other rules or regulation of the party which are inconsistent with the provision shall, to the extent of such inconsistency, be null and void. So what they did concerning the expulsion was inconsistent with the constitution of the party. The constitution of the party says here, and I want to read, Article 8, subsection 2D, only the National Convention or the National Executive Committee shall have power to expel a member from the party. So where does the National Working Committee derive their power? He said it here that the NEC is yet to sit. So and this, we call this party a new Nigeria. We want things to be done in a new order. It shouldn't be like business as usual. And Nigerians are watching us. So if any group of people can say because they don't like the face of Ogini, and for whatever reason, they said it should be expelled. And let me go to the details. They sent a letter to me, and I said, I cannot respond to this allegation until I saw the petition. That's a letter accusing you of anti-party activism. Yes, I said, let me see the petition. Let me know those who wrote. They now sent the petition. The petition was unsigned. Barrister Ladipo, you are my friend, you are a barrister, you are a lawyer of repute. All Nigerians are listening to us. Any unsigned document is a worthless tissue paper. So how did this escalate? They just came up, they went on radio and televisions just to announce that I'm a member of NEC, of New Nigeria People's Party, by my position as the chairman of Ogun State. Now, having looked at the political hierarchy and knowing that they stood logic in the head, I proceeded to complain to the founder of this party. Somebody founded this party. His name is Dr. Boniface Okechukwu Anebona. And he has founded this party over 22 years ago. Today, he handed over the party and said, okay, he wants the party to grow up. And after that, let me answer just a minute. He now became the chairman board of trustees. I complained to him, and he looked at the constitution, and he told them at National Working Committee, what you have done is totally wrong, and it's against the constitution. Therefore, it cannot hold any water. Okay, so I'm telling Barrister that I'm still a bona fide member of NNPP in Nigeria by the virtue of this constitution. So how did this escalate to the presidential candidate of your party, saying that he's trying to victimize? How? Because you've not mentioned. Yeah, let me tell you how. With due respect to Senator Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, is a leader that I respect, is a leader that has brought life into the party. But the point is this: he came to this party almost 1 year ago. They all met and Barrister that is leading, they met us in this party. And when they came, in the magnanimity of the founder of the party, the father of us all, he dissolved everybody and said, okay, let's start all over again so they can have opportunity. But what Senator Rabiu Kwankwaso is after is to hijack the party and give it to all Kwankwasia members. Okay, let's go to that's exactly what happened. Mr. Johnson. So, weighty allegations, and you've listened to him. In fact, they say that it is Senator Kwankwaso that is guilty of anti-party activities, and they reference a meeting perhaps with the president, APC, and the rest. What say you?
Well, I say that it's all a joke, really. I don't want to begin to insult anyone. Senator Kwankwaso, at the moment in time that talks were going on with the presidency, always carried the National Working Committee along. And in fact, there is nothing that would have occurred without the ratification of the National Working Committee and, of course, the National Executive Committee. It's as simple as that. What you have there is, as I said, I didn't know we would be coming to discuss back and forth on the program. You see, there is another article in the Constitution that goes further, and I'm glad he said himself that, and the National Executive Committee. Now, the National Executive Committee does not meet on a daily basis. There's one scheduled to meet this quarter. It doesn't meet on a daily basis. And everyone knows in most of the parties, the National Working Committee acts on behalf of the National Executive. I will not trade issues as to a founder or several founders, because there are several founders of the party. There are several founders of the party, not just one person. But I will not trade issues as to that. I will not go to that length. And I'm sure Senator Kwankwaso wouldn't even want me to begin to talk about his relationship with the founder or otherwise. The bottom line is this. If Mr. Ogini, my brother, my friend, and his those others who are suspended are not happy with the procedure followed or with the facts that were considered, they know the process. They should not try to run down the party. We have it on good authority that all of a sudden there are some other parties that are interested in sponsoring them to get them to cause as much mayhem as possible. The bottom line is that they say good publicity, bad publicity, doesn't matter whichever way you are being discussed. So at least I thank them for putting the NNPP at the front burner of discussions in the political sphere in Nigeria.
So we have to,
but
we have to go now.
the bottom line is that when we go up and down, at the end of the day, the rule of law, the Constitution will prevail, and it will be seen that the Constitution
we have to go now, Mr. Johnson. So let me get the final words from Comrade Ogini. Next line of action. We have less than 30 seconds to.
Yes, I'm happy that Barrister said it, that he did not lie here, that NEC never met. If NEC never met, why are you rushing to take decision on behalf of the NEC? Why should NEC meet? So our own position is that NNPP is our own.
But they say you are being funded by other political
parties. It is a lie. We kept on pursuing the life of demand. They say that there are many funders. In NNPP, we have only one funder, who is Dr. Boniface Ukechukwu Anebona. And every box stops at his table. But they are no longer listening to him. The funder has been calling this Barrister Ladipo. He did not pick his call. So how do we now have a kind of system by which? So we are praying to Nigeria that we are going to have a new Nigeria. All this will be resolved.
All right. We'll keep our eyes on happenings within the NNPP, but we'd like to thank you so much. I mean,
thank you.
We don't run away from debates here. That's what's good for democracy. So we have our debates, healthy debates, that is. Comrade Sunday Ogini is, of course, one of the aggrieved parties within the NNPP, as well as Mr. Ladipo Johnson.
Expulsion. I still the chairman of the party.
And then you hear from him. And Mr. Ladipo Johnson, who is a national auditor and chairman of NNPP's disciplinary committee. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Just before we go, let us tell you that a security summit organized by the South-East Governors Forum is expected to hold today at the Enugu State Government House in Enugu. Expected at the summit are the governors of Imo, Ebonyi, Anambra, Abia, and the host governor, Peter Mba. The leadership of Ohanes and Dibo, security chiefs from the Southeast, town union presidents from the 5 Southeast states, traditional rulers, and other leaders are also expected to be present at the meeting. And top on the agenda, of course, is a discussion on how to tackle the growing insecurity in the region, especially as it affects the economy of the zone. Well, that's the program for this afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Kaido Kikilo. Goodbye.